Hi, I'm Dr. Lance Knob with the Denali Consulting and 4% Breakthrough Communities. And I'm here today with Beate Chelette, owner of Chelette Enterprises and the Growth Architect podcast. Welcome, Beate. So much exciting stuff to talk about. First, I want to ask you how you turned your passion for photography and being a single mom, $135,000 in debt, to a multi-million dollar exit, selling your company to Bill Gates in a short period of time. Can you please tell us that story and share some of the lessons learned?
Thank you so much for having me, Lance. I was really looking forward to this. So, hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Beate, the growth architect, and the story is really the unruly child that never fit in and had to figure out how I was going to make things work for me. I never felt that the proven path, and Lance, I think that you and I have in common that what other people typically do, we look at it and go like, yeah, it's not quite hitting the mark here. So I was definitely more interested in the creative arts, but I wasn't that good at it. And I realized early on that it would take me a very long time to be a great creative because it's a craft in itself. But I was naturally really good at the business side. So, very early in my career, after I went into photography school in Germany, I became a photo editor at Elle magazine in Germany and did that when I was only 23 years old, making good money, having the dream job of many. But I felt that it wasn't fulfilling for me and I wanted to have an adventure. So I went to the United States and then I went through a 13-year journey of just hard knocks and massive adversity. I jokingly say I'm an 8-time disaster survivor, and my disasters are fires, floods, riots, earthquakes, a tsunami. Little did I know I was gonna add a pandemic to it and a lawsuit and all the things that you read about that happen to other people, and they literally happened to me. And then there is this moment where you feel that every time you got something figured out, and Lance, I know your story isn't exactly the Prince story either,
For
but there's
sure.
like this person with a frying pan. Every time you get up, it's like, boom, you get another one over the head. And then you make it back up, and boom, there's a betrayal from the employee and the lawsuit. And then you get back up, and then boom, then September 11th wipes out your entire business, and it just keeps coming. And then there was a moment where I had to really learn how to surrender, and my father dies. And he didn't have a stroke, but he had totaled his car accident. We thought it was a stroke, it was pancreatic cancer. And um he had only 6 weeks to live. And so now I bury my dad. I get another phone call from my office. I'm losing the house that I was working and living out of. I have no money, and I go, "Okay, God, it's time for you to take over because clearly I've done everything and I do not know what else to do." I raised my fist, I yelled at God, and I said, "It's your job now because there's nothing else I can do." And then I got a letter from the White House because I had written in my desperation a letter to the President of the United States, ask him to help me because
Love it.
my former mother-in-law just wouldn't stop talking about it. That brought me in the SBA. The SBA helped me to restructure my debt, freed up my line of credit. 3 months later, I'm break even. 18 months later, I'm the world's leader in my category. That's how a Bill Gates company paid attention to us and made me an offer too good to refuse.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate. I was the operator for 12 and a half years, so that 13-year time frame. And just about every obstacle, right? And even if you think you've made it, there will be new challenges, right? Pandemics that you can't even predict. But we also had fires. And I remember a year and a half in when, the space next door, the sprinkler system froze and water was coming through the wall. So, I mean, everything from a plague, right? You'll never could imagine the gut punches, the lawsuits that can happen, Beate. So thanks for sharing that, all those low times, which made your success even sweeter. And yeah, Rob Holman saying the power of surrender. So for everyone listening, please, share any questions. So Beate, I know you really enjoyed sharing all those lessons, especially with females and female entrepreneurs. And that's part of your book. Can you tell us a little bit about your passion for helping other women and female entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so number one, I'm a pretty straight shooter, so I call it as it is. And when I was an entrepreneur, I didn't really feel the difference between men and women very much because I was able to maneuver this pretty well. I did realize it was difficult to get into the room that was filled with men, so I had to come up with some strategies to maneuver around that. And, a lot of the backdoor strategies that I talk about in my book, Happy Woman, Happy World. And then when the Bill Gates company acquired me, they made me an offer and I became an employee for the company. I lasted for just a little under 2 years. And when I went in there, I was shocked on what a difference there was in how men did business and how women did business. I mean, half of the time I'm literally with my jaw open. I'm like, are you guys serious? And so when I then left the company, I realized that there is very little information for men and women to understand the other side of things or to understand the differences. Men, and there's nobody's blaming men. Men are doing things the way men have done things for eternity, and it works for men for the most part, not so much for this new generation, but for the most part, it's worked. Women have had only since women liberation, a certain number of years to even figure this out. So, of course, we don't have thousands of years of dominance and of hunting skills and of team building and leadership and whatever that is. We literally only have like 50, 60 years. So, of course, it's a wild mess. And so I wrote my book because I realized that women need to start number one to stop being so difficult with each other and and take each other down because they are working under the scarcity principle that there is only this much leadership available for women. And I wanted to help men to understand how women work and how they can support women. And that's why I wrote the book Happy Woman, Happy World.
Love it. And with all the different various, failures that you mentioned along your journey, how were you able to not take that personally, detach from that a little bit so that you weren't crushed and you could actually move on? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and this goes back to one of our listeners' questions about surrender. The there is this idea that when something happens to us, it's happening to us, and therefore it is personal because it's happening to us, and it's because we made a mistake, or because we didn't see something coming, or because we should have known something. Now, being on the other side of this, if I look back, I will tell you that the reason things happened is they made me who I am today. There's a way Tony Robbins has to talk about it when he talks about his mother, who apparently was a challenging parent. And he says, I thank her for everything. And so when I heard that, and this is part of this Netflix documentary, I'm Not Your Guru, I really thought about that. This is really at the core of this, Lance, is to say, I I got to be thankful for all these pieces because if I let God, if I surrender to a higher power, God, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it, right? The universal life force, then if I surrender to this and I trust that all these pieces are designed to help me to grow, then I don't have an issue. So if a tree loses all its leaves, it's not that we go into the tree and we say, man, sorry, dude, totally screwed it up. Should have known fall is coming, should have had better nutrients, lost all your leaves, you look like shit. It's like, it's going to be a tough winter. I mean, it's going to be, terrible. And then in the spring, the tree's back. So if nature doesn't worry about another season, why do we? And so I think this is the unique part about our surrendering is that we take something that's happening. This is it. This is the end. This is the last thing that'll ever happen to us. And then we die a terrible, terrible, horrible death. But it's not that way. What's happening right now, if you shift that into curiosity, that's what I did. I did two things. Number one, I shifted into curiosity. I'm going like, that's kind of interesting. Like, I wonder what the what the lesson is in this because this is just not normal that all this stuff is happening to one person. And the second piece was I'm limiting my time worrying about it. So when I had no money, I worried about money only twice a month when I had to pay bills. And then I had to be really diligent and take this out of my head and put it in a box and not think about it until I had to pay bills again, because otherwise I would have looped the entire month just about money. And I had to loop around how I was going to grow my business. So surrender or not getting attached to a misfortune is your internal knowledge that you're connected, and this is just part of the path. It's not the final stop, it's a stop.
Love it. Thank you, Rob Holman, for the question. And Beate, great answer on, like, we only fail, right, if we quit. So they were all learning lessons. And I love your philosophy on surrendering. And touching on your last point, I know that a lot of people are really financially focused and money focused, and that you really prefer to be impact driven. What's the difference between the two? How do we get ourselves to that perspective?
Yes, I think that for a lot of people, there is a money mindset issue, and money is looked as the answer to everything. If I only had more money, then I could buy the bigger house, get the bigger car. I could go on bigger vacations. I could buy my kids what my kids really deserve. I could take care of myself better. I could, go do the physical therapy with the physical therapist. Had to give you a plug here.
Love it.
uh, Go to the nice gym, do all these things that I feel that I'm worthy of. But if I think about it that way, it still is a very limiting mindset, because the impact, if I shift my money mindset into how much of an impact do I want to make? So if I say I want to make $1 million, then I have to sit and think about how I'm going to make $1 million. But if I think about how I'm going to serve 1,000 people and impact 1,000 people to grow their businesses, and I can put a value to my work, then I'm still going to get to the $1 million, but I'm now an impact driven, a conscious entrepreneur. And I think that if I shift that in my clients over to an impact driven mindset, to say, well, how many people are you serving? Are you serving enough people? Are you making a big enough impact? And they say, well, I've only had 5 clients last year. I'm like, is that the impact you want to make? Of course, you're broke if you serve 5 clients a year. But if we are shifting that in the head, and I find it is easier for somebody to get more excited about helping more people than it is to tell somebody to make more money. More money is the desire that society tells us to do. But if we're impact driven, we're going to make the money, because the more people we impact, we automatically make more money. So I think it's just a shift in our head to help us to overcome the scarcity principle and the money mindset blocks that many people have.
Yeah, Beata, so beautiful. And I couldn't agree more. I know for myself, I suffered from this. And I know in my early goals, I can think with Denali and with coaching consulting, I had these, objective goals. And then I did, luckily, thank goodness, Ethan Feldman helped me realize, a family member, and we were supporting each other, that by tweaking the language I was using as my goal and my affirmation to serve more people, everything started to happen faster and better. And, the first step in my business planning process, and we're definitely going to talk about strategy, we're so aligned with that, and with my book, is a personal mission. And I find so many entrepreneurs struggle with that. And I was just at a mastermind last Friday, and people were trying to figure it out. And I just said, why don't you ask yourself who you want to serve? I just feel like that's a better way to start to think about it. So I love all of this, Beata. And, I just want to tell everyone how we met each other, right? We met through Hannah's help, who's backstage helping us today. And she helped me connect with you for your podcast, The Growth Architect Show, which we talked about. And we had an amazing interview for everyone to check out. And Beata is in California, and your son-in-law, your daughter's in New York on the East Coast, and your son-in-law I just connected with, he's a personal trainer, aspiring physical therapist. So I'm so glad to have met him and be supporting him.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, and that just shows you I just want to really point this out that a lot of times I think when you're listening to these kinds of things, um, it kind of feels that there's not true connection, but we really connected, and this is the best part about what we do is you are driven by impact, and you have a great way to serve, and I'm impact driven and I want to serve. And when you are connecting with other people that have that same kind of energy, things naturally evolve. You don't have to force it. And that I think is the best part about collaborations, relationships, partnerships is that you just never know where it leads. It could be a friend, it could be a business opportunity. But if you detach yourself from the outcome and say, I'm here to serve, I'm here to stay in gratitude, I'm here to give my time, my energy, and my expertise without expecting anything in return, that's when the opportunities are really showing up. And while we're at it, I would love to give you a little plug. So for anybody listening, wherever you're picking this up, please subscribe to Lance's work and leave a comment, 5-star review, and tell one other person about what we're talking about today and his work. So that's how we share the goodness, because this is a labor of love.
Beate, you are leading by example for everyone out there and listening to this at any time. Pay attention to what Beate is doing. I mean, she is serving first, exactly what she spoke about. So Beate, thank you. And the feelings are mutual. You are so generous. And Cliff just said he loves it. Cliff, hope you're doing well. And Rob, just said, purpose opens the door for meaningful impact. And Rob is also someone you'll have to connect with, a really purpose-driven leader and a mentor of mine in so many ways. So yeah, so glad to be connected with Beate. I can't wait to meet and see you on the West Coast or you on the East Coast. So it's going to be fun doing big things together. And, connecting to this, I know you actually have a hard time talking about yourself, right? You're very humble. And you're so good at speaking about others, as you just did from my behalf. Where do you think this stems from? How have you gotten over it? Or how do you work on that? How do you get over that?
Yeah, so let's give him the little bit of a backstory. So Lance was on my podcast, and and then he said to me, "You never told me that you sold your business to Bill Gates." And I'm like, just details, right?
Yeah.
So so
For
I
a
I think
multi-million-dollar exit, by the way. Yeah, just a little bit
yeah,
of
and
success.
and
Yeah.
the Bill Gates, not any
Yeah.
other Bill Gates. I mean, the Bill Gates, and not Microsoft, but he himself personally. So I think there's a couple of things that go into it. So in the beginning, when I was younger, I felt that I had to prove my value over and over and over and over again. And when I was in business, I had to prove myself over and over and over again. And then I had understood a concept that I think is the most beautiful concept of all concepts. And my dad kind of taught me that. My dad always said to me, at the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, you have to like the person who looks back at you. And it didn't make sense to me for years and years and years until I finally understood what that meant. It meant that I have a choice to be the person I want to be, that I can look in the mirror, that I am okay with. So I can stop this. And if you're listening, put it in the comments if you have ever done that. When you're in bed at night and you go through your day and you go, screwed up here, said something really stupid over there, shouldn't have called that person, really desperate on that, bad move on that, where you literally like give yourself scores at the end of the day on all the things you screwed up during the day. Tell us in the comments if you've ever done that. And that is such a colossal waste of time, because it means that who you are is incongruent with who you want to be. So then we need to flip it and say, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be so that that doesn't happen? And then the work begins. That's where the personal development begins. That's where the um, how do I want to be in a situation like that? I have no problem throwing a good temper tantrum. It's actually a strategy that I teach. A well thrown temper tantrum by a woman can be extremely effective. You just can't do it very often. If somebody says, "You're so emotional," I know how to shut him down in a nanosecond. That is a strategy. But I have then moved over, instead of hating myself for being such a loser and saying all these stupid stuff, to going, who do I want to be? And now that I am okay with who I am, I don't have to put myself in the center of attention anymore, because I don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. I've already proven who I am and what I can do. And with that confidence, now you have an entirely different open door, because that's what people feels like. Well, why would you not talk about that if that's such a big deal? What else is she doing that she's not telling me about? So now you're shifting the whole perception of you into somebody who has the confidence and that flair of, badass about you, without having to shove it in people's faces.
So good. And you make me think about someone that I just met about 14 months ago speaking, Mick Ebeling, and they consolidated Think and Grow Rich and all these leadership books into the statement, act like the person you want to be. And, I find myself coaching myself that way, right? Rather than beating myself up, I have resumed sort of bedtime journaling to kind of clear my head and clean all the marbles out and just, rest easier. But I love how you flip that paradigm on that, Beata. And the next thing I wanted to ask you about is change, right? Everybody wants to make changes and to get better, but people struggle with change, and often they don't really want to actually take the steps to make the change. What are your thoughts on coaching us to make changes a little bit easier for ourselves and our organizations?
Yeah, so I jokingly say everybody loves change until they have to change. The concept of change is great, but actually changing is a lot more difficult. I think that the difficulty with change is that there is a psychological subconscious valve in us, that if we are changing something, that there's a part that says, well, if you're changing now, you must have done something wrong, and people hate nothing more than being wrong about anything. So if I now say, these 20 years I've behaved a particular way, I'm going to change that, then my subconscious is going to say, oh, yeah, right. That's not safe, though. You need to go back to safety. You need to go back to the way you've always done it, because that is what we know how to do, no matter how painful that is. So I look at change a little bit more pragmatically. I I look at it from a three-question perspective. Is what I want to do possible? Has anybody ever done it before? If that is a yes, then I go to the next question. If it has been possible for someone else, is it possible for me? The answer is yes. Then I go to my third question, and then the question shifts to, if it is possible, if it's possible for me, how can I do it? So that's how I look at change. Is anybody doing it? Great. Can I do it? Probably. Then how do I do it? So I shift the fear of change into the, how do I achieve that thing? And that takes out that angsty thing out of change, because if you build a successful business, you had an exit, you build gyms, and you combine fitness and physical therapy. So the model exists. I don't have to make the model up. I can follow your model. I can make it better. I can, make it a little bit different. I can change the colors. I can change the name. I can do but it's already existing. So if you think about that, most of the stuff you're trying to do is already existing, and your job is just to figure out how to make it better so that there's a demand for it, you're golden. So you just want to find a way to take the angst out of the change.
Yeah, so good. And you mentioned earlier that you and I might look at things and think about things a little bit differently, and I think we're very aligned on the importance of strategy. And I want you to speak about that, because I feel like that connects to what you were just speaking about. your algorithm for change, and the how. So how, and maybe you can even connect this, or we could talk about it next, but I want to understand, how people entrepreneurs can build and grow their authority. So can you touch on the strategy and strategic thinking? Because, my opinion is that, from my own survey of hundreds of entrepreneurs, 90+% of entrepreneurs don't have a plan in place. And I was just reading Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, this morning on planning. It always makes me feel better, because at least the most widely read business book of all time agrees with me on that. So what are your thoughts, Beate? How can you help us?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that authority is not celebrity. So you got to be very clear. In our world, we are talking heads. It it's very difficult unless you're a cat that skis to go viral. Because when you scroll through your Instagram feed or any other feed, the stuff you stop is the stupid stuff that people do, right? The funny, entertaining stuff. But when you scroll, internet marketing has taken over everything. 3 steps to the 5 things the one thing you have in order to, and then you just scroll, you go, like, oh God, I'm so overwhelmed. So you got to forget all of that. You have to figure this out from a perspective of, who do I want to be the authority in? And then you build a tribe. You could be an authority not for a large number of people, but you could be the authority for a very narrowly defined piece. I have a very funny thing that I say. I mean, I think it's funny. My aim is to be the only funny German everybody knows. But to this day, I do not know what Gary Vee does. Like, literally, if you were to ask me what is Gary Vee's business, I could not tell you, because he is talking about crypto, he's talking about mindset, I mean, he does everything. I'm going like, dude, what do you do? So
Yeah,
he's the celebrity that has an opinion on everything.
right.
So he's not the authority on anything. He's the authority on blowing nothing out of proportion with a huge team. God bless him. Keep going, Gary Vee. People love you. It's awesome. But that's not authority to me. Authority is when you come to me because I know how to build systems and strategies that help you to get the authority. If you want authority and you haven't figured out how to build a system, or you don't know what the strategy for you specifically is to build authority, that's when you come to me. I'm the authority in that. And I'm impact driven. So I attract conscious entrepreneurs who really want to make an impact in the world. So that's the first part about authority, is to get very clear, what are you going to be the authority in? And then you have to have a strategy in place in the outlets where your potential clients or prospects are, so that you are in front of them and can actually build your authority to your tribe. Because if your cat goes famous, that does nothing for your business. I had one viral post that had 1.2 million views, and about 100,000 comments. It was on LinkedIn. And I said, after another one of those stupid in-mail messages that I got, LinkedIn is not a dating website. That's what goes viral. Did nothing for my business.
Wow. I mean, those are incredible numbers, and that's an incredible story. And I love how you are educating us on how you serve people and your ideal clients. So it's those impact driven clients who need help with their strategy and their systems. Can you give us a little bit more about, so the right people know how to connect with, we're going to talk about that as well, but give us a little bit more specifics about your ideal people to serve.
Yes. So there are a couple of things that I work with my clients. So the thing that I'm really well known for is my signature growth system. It's a mastermind that I do. And that's where I help people that do different things, that maybe speaking on certain topics, that have an online course, that are doing a coaching, that are doing a mastermind, that are doing all kinds of different things. And it feels disjointed. So it could be, how to find clients, how to feel better about yourself and mindset. And then people look at this and go like, wow, dude, I don't even know what you do because it's such a convoluted mess. So are you a mindset person or you're like a business coach? I don't understand. I help to build signature systems, putting an umbrella over it, organizing everything. So then you're the inventor of the whatever X system that helps people to have the right mindset to run their business successfully, right? So I built those. And a typical client is somebody who understands that they need to tackle strategy because they've tried everything else. They've spent a ton of money on internet marketers and they're tired of I call it the internet marketing loop, because then you buy something only to find out that you need the next affiliate program that they offer to launch it. Then you need another program, the next affiliate program to actually hack your funnel. Then you need another affiliate program offer, which is now you need to speak from stage. And now you need another affiliate offer. So they keep buying and buying and buying, but they have no strategy of what they need. I come in, I help them to figure out what the overall strategy is, and then we pick and choose of what you probably already paid for, how that fits in, so that you can have a clean, cohesive, concise strategy to grow your business and your authority and make the impact.
I love it. And to go back to the German thing, right? Obviously, my last name is German, and the German side of my family, and I've been to Germany. Germans are typically very standoffish. My German side of the family is handshakes. My Italian sides is hugs and kisses, and warm. And even in Germany, within 5 minutes in Cologne, we like almost got arrested in physical therapy school for like not crossing the street properly, and you know, interrupting the bike lane. I mean, the Germans are very serious. So you stand out with a sense of humor. I love it.
As I said, I try. I even went to a comedy class because, a little behind the scenes
Yeah,
thing, because I felt that when I heard myself speak, I don't have a heavy accent, but I still have an accent. And as I was doing a lot of these podcast interviews and speaking, and I was listening to myself, I'm like, this sounds a little rough at times, because I say it as it is. So I said, I have to figure out a way to soften this. So you see, I have a little bit curly hair to soften it. When I speak, I wear a dress to soften it. And then I went to comedy school so that at least I could crack a couple of jokes, however inappropriate, to soften it. So that's all part of my
I
strategy.
love it. Good for you. And there's a great book everyone will have to check out. Humor Seriously. They're literally, these ladies are in the Stanford Business School, and humor is so important. And it's, just like you, right? I have to work on it. It's probably, I blame it on the German side of me. So, Beate, tell everyone any final thoughts, that we didn't talk about or that you want to reinforce to help everyone who, no matter where they are in their journey, to get to a successful exit or create legacy, however that looks. And certainly people want the option of a, multi 7-figure or 8-figure exit. Tell us things that we can be doing to make sure we position that, and all the ways that we can get in touch with you and keep in contact.
Yeah. I mean, the number one thing is you got to make sure that you never take failure personal. I think that is my number one thing. I always compare this is like if you have an outdated GPS and now you're ending up in a cul-de-sac that was the road that you used to take. You're not getting out of the car, you're not throwing yourself on the ground, you're not throwing a temper tantrum, you're not going like, I'll never drive again. This is it. My driving career is over. You just get in the car and you find another way. So failure is like that. So if it's a cul-de-sac, just go, oh, thank you so much for letting me know there's a cul-de-sac now. Uh, Noted. I'm going to now take a different way. That's number one. Number two, in order to position yourself really seriously in business and for an exit, you got to get clear on what it actually is that you want. If the business model that you want is not congruent with who you are, it can't work. So you have to start with what your business model is going to be to achieve the outcome, because a lot of times I talk to people and they go like, well, I want to make an extra $10,000 a month and I want two clients that pay me $1,000. I'm like, the math does not work. So you have to like logically think through that the model that you aspire actually is a model that can get you there. If you say I want to have a $10 million exit because I want a 5x evaluation, then you need to be a $2 million business. In order to be a $2 million business and get to 2 million revenue, like there's some logic behind it, behind the model. So don't be afraid to sit down and hammer this out. And that's the big audacious hairy goal that you're going after. But if the model exists and it is possible, it's possible for you. And then the question is, how are you going to do it?
Love it. And how can we stay connected to you? How can everyone reach out to you, follow you?
Yes. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn or any other channel, look me up, Growth Architect or Beate Chelette. There is really literally only one of me out there for now. And, don't be a stranger. Share what you've taken away or a comment. And if you want to figure out what your number one business growth blocker is, go to growthblockerquiz.com. Take my 2-minute quiz, and I'll let you know with precision if it's a strategy, the system, or your authority. And if you are not clear who your ideal client is, which interestingly enough, Lance, seems to be the number one problem everybody have, not being clear what their client is, go to airtideavatar.com. And in 10 minutes, it's done for you. All you have to do is take a pen and make check marks, airtideavatar.com.
Awesome. And I think everyone, those links, if you're watching this, are in the comments. If not, if you're listening to this, please find those websites. Beate, thank you so much for joining today and sharing so much wisdom and value and being exactly what you recommend, right? Just being so generous and, humble. So everyone, please follow Beate, check out those amazing free resources she has. And Beate, I look forward to talking soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye.